John Fetterman, newly elected U.S. Senator, went into the hospital at Walter Reed. First, it was lightheadedness, they said. Something was wrong following the stroke. Then it turned into, he's got to go back in for an undetermined amount of time for depression. Nothing wrong with that. A lot of people suffer from depression, but his team has been playing a little like hide the salami on what his actual physical condition is for a long time.
Wait, I don't think is Megyn fully aware of what hide the salami means? I don't
No.
Okay. Well, that's probably not what you think. But hey, you know what? I'm sure he's doing it. You have a bunch of crazy people in those wards, and they get busy. I mean, the highest STD rate in the country is ladies in old folks' homes. Did you know that? That's true. The highest. Those old birds get around. I mean, slowly, but they make their way. But yes, no, I've heard of this. With Fetterman, here's the thing.
Transparent. He hasn't been transparent, so he's back. But I want to tell you that today, courtesy of the Washington Post, New York Times, Annie Carney, who really is just like his stenographer. It's crazy how fawning her pieces are over him. She wants us to know it's all going swimmingly in Walter Reed. He hasn't missed a step, Stephen. He is in a cheerfully decorated common room with floral paintings adorning violet walls. He begins most of his days meeting with his chief of staff, carrying a briefcase full of newspaper clips, statements for him to approve, legislation to review, and other business. And goes on and on and on about he's made the wise decision to eschew exposure to cable television, the internet, and social media, and that he is firing off legislation and making decisions on farm bills and so on day after day. And yay, this is something we should all be celebrating, that he is there and so open and has been more transparent than any senator ever who struggled with mental health. What do you make of it?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if he wakes up wearing an Enrique Iglesias beanie and his wife returns from Canada holding a pillow over his face. So I don't know how this. Look, here's the thing. Like you said, and I've talked about having struggled with issues like depression in the past. My heart goes out to him. But it's relevant, just like with Joe Biden. It's relevant if he's not fit for office. And of course, just like with the Wuhan lab, right? Leak theory. Everyone said, well, that's racist. You're going, hold on a second. This has nothing to do with the people of China. We're talking about the Chinese government. It's the same thing with Fetterman, with Biden. We're saying, hold on a second. We're not saying that someone who has mental issues or might be suffering from some kind of neurodegenerative disease is a bad person, but it is relevant for someone who has to make a lot of executive decisions. And when Fetterman was running, people were saying, hey, you know what? This guy might not be fit. And everyone said, that's a low blow. That's getting personal. That's an unfair attack. And I think now we see that it's relevant. And hey, I don't know. We can't know because the media is, as you said, running interference for him. I mean, this reporter at New York Times, Carney is in the name. I don't know. Last name could be like first name Snake, last name oil salesman. We can't know the truth. We cannot know the truth.
Right.
And it is relevant. And I hope if people have learned nothing these last few years, and I apologize if I'm scratchy again, it's the red tide, maybe some mad cow. I hope if people if they've learned one thing these last few years, it's don't allow yourself to be silenced through those modes of attack. No, the Wuhan lab theory was not racist. No, hold on a second. Questioning the CDC, questioning Fauci, the highest paid unelected official, is not anti-science. No. Saying that Fetterman has had strokes and seems to be speaking in a way that is inarticulate and in some cases unintelligible. And this is back then. No, that's not saying that you hate people who've had strokes. These are relevant points of data. And we need to look at those vectors when we're talking about someone holding elected office. And for someone, people on the left, they value experience so much. And by that, they mean career politicians, right? That was a big attack they used against Donald Trump. Well, he has no experience in office. But you don't think being mentally fit, physically fit, just being capable on the same level that the average American, you don't think that's relevant? You think it's more relevant that they've suckled at the government teat for 20, 30, in Biden's case, 50-something years? It's a fundamentally different way of viewing the world. And I wish and I pray for Fetterman to heal up. I hope that he's well. I wouldn't wish depression on my worst enemy, but it doesn't seem like he's ready to do this job. Doesn't seem like he was ready to do this job. And I do think it's also a lesson to Republicans. Don't run not crazy. Dr. Oz wasn't crazy. He's not crazy, but he was a bad candidate. That's all I'll say.
Don't run the crudité loving candidate in a state like Pennsylvania. So the thing about Fetterman is they're now they say, his decision to rush back to the campaign trail really set back his recovery. We know. Those of us who are watching this race said, what are they doing? This is cruel. They're just propping the guy up. They're shoving him back out there. Oh, you're an ableist. You're an ableist. Well, now they admitted in this fawning piece where you've got to read it because they would never write like this about a Republican going through this. They talk about, and they actually have a quote from his chief of staff. We were honest with people about what's going on. We put it out there. No, you did not put it out there. And even the mental health problems were hidden from us until he had to be checked in for severe depression for an indeterminate amount of time. And now they tell us the following. The strict regimen he's on may be working. People around Mr. Fetterman have said they've noticed a palpable difference in him in recent days. His sense of humor has returned. He is more sociable, sharing with the nurses some of the sweets that have been sent to him by fellow senators. And then they go on to say, just in case you weren't sure, it's really not a thing if a senator has no faculties about him, because his staff does everything anyway. Here's from deep in the piece. It is not unusual for lawmakers to be told by members of their staff, sometimes after the fact, what bills they're co-sponsoring. With the exception of calls to cabinet officials or meetings with the chief executives of companies that are important to their states, there are few meetings that cannot be handled by senior staff. They go on to quote somebody as saying, even with a senator sidelined, a Senate office, particularly under an experienced chief of staff, would run pretty much in a normal way. Who needs John Fetterman after all?
I feel like you get a kick out of enraging me, Megyn. I feel like you read that for slightly longer than you needed to so that the seething that's bubbling beneath the surface would find its way up.
I don't know what you've missed. I want to make sure I give you all the goodies.
No, you're right. He campaigned too quickly, so that made it hard for him. So doing his job made it hard for him to do his job? That'd be like saying, Usain Bolt, really, he would have won that race if he didn't have to do so much running up to it. I mean, campaigning is part of your job. Campaigning is part of your job. And maybe he does have depression. Maybe there's something else going on. Again, you read that to me. I don't care that he's sharing his Sherry's berries with the nurse practitioner. I couldn't give less of a shit, okay? And I know you gave up cussing for Lent, and so I try and avoid it too. But really, this is one of those situations where the media is, again, running interference. And this is why I know we'll get to it. But, if we're talking about Mug Club and the network that I'm building, I have a problem not only with the media, but I have a problem with the conservative, the right wing, the Republican lackeys, also placing greater importance on going to cocktail parties with these people. And you know this, and I know this. It is an incestuous cesspool of filth and sadness where dreams go to die. My problem is not with Fetterman. It is with Fetterman, I should say. But, you can't be mad at a snake for biting you, at a pet snake for biting you. My problem is with the people who present themselves as lambs and they're wolves. They're wolves in sheep's clothing, whether that's the leftist media or people on the right who don't fight back enough. There are people on the right who said it was an unfair attack to bring up Fetterman's, bring up his mental fitness. The same thing with Joe Biden. Why? We all know that's the case. For crying out loud, it was a comedic witch hunt, right, with George W. Bush for 8 years because he mispronounced nuclear.
Mudwater is a coffee alternative with 4 adaptogenic mushrooms and Ayurvedic herbs. With only a fraction of caffeine as a cup of coffee, you get energy without the jitters or the crash that comes from coffee. Each ingredient was added for a purpose. Cacao and chai for mood. Doesn't cacao always stop you in your tracks? You don't often see it written, but cacao and chai for mood and just a hint of caffeine, just a hint. Lion's mane to support focus. I should have had that before I read this ad. Cinnamon for antioxidants and much, much more. Mud is Whole30 approved, 100% USDA organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher certified. Mudwater donates monthly to the Berkeley Center for the Science of Psychedelics, as Mudwater believes the country is in a mental health epidemic and sees psychedelics as useful tools for individuals with depression, PTSD, anxiety, and other mental health problems. We did a great episode on that. You should check it out. Mud is not wrong. Go to mudwater.com/Megyn, and that is spelled MUDWTR.com/MEGYN, okay? MUDWTR.com/Megyn to support the show and use that code MEGYNMUD for 15% off. MUDWTR.com/Megyn. Use the code MEGYNMUD. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.